Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for today's video. Today I'm going to be talking with Chris from the YouTube channel Chris MF, and I'm so excited to be discussing with Chris today. Oh my gosh, I love Chris's channel. If you didn't know, Chris is also an author tuber. We're going to discuss that a little bit later, but I have been watching Chris's videos for so long and I absolutely love her content so much. The best writing vlogs on YouTube.
I'm shook right now.
So check out her channel if you're interested. We're going to be doing a bit of like a casual interview kind of thing. So I've written up some questions that I'm going to discuss with Chris today. And the first one is just an intro. So Chris, if you could introduce yourself to everybody, that would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, before I jump into everything, I was just telling Rachel that I was having a fangirl moment, because if you've been watching my videos for a long time, I've been watching you for so long. So it's surreal. But yeah, so my name's Chris, of course. I am a speculative fiction writer. I make videos about writing. I started my channel about a year ago. A year and a bit. And I mean, outside of writing and YouTube, I'm a digital designer. I work at an agency, so that's kind of my 9 to 5. And yeah, the rest of the time I'm writing or reading or making videos, or watching anime, and that's my life.
If you have not watched Chris's videos, check her channel out. It's so good. Tons of videos on there already for everyone to binge watch. So I will make sure to link that and put it everywhere in the cards and stuff so that you don't miss it. But I wanted to ask you, why did you start your AuthorTube channel?
Yeah, I mean, I think I started my channel for the same reason that anybody across any niche or genre on YouTube starts their channel, which is just you have something to say. You have no one to talk to about it. But yeah, I think back when I first started posting videos, my channel was really not something I thought other people would watch. So I mean, I made a lot of writing vlogs, and I still do, and so I think my videos are mostly focused on process and journey and my own individual writing experience, and just kind of documenting that, documenting the projects that I'm working on, and vlogging sort of every step of it, almost all of the ups and downs. And I talk about when I'm stuck, I talk about how I get myself unstuck, and I talk about, when I'm really happy with my work and why I'm really happy with it. So yeah, I think the reason that I sort of prefer to keep most of the videos on my channel really personal to my own projects is because I try to, as much as possible, not generalize the writing experience, because I think oftentimes the most helpful writing advice is the type of writing advice that you get in context or whatever. So yeah, I think there's a lot of really great creators and writers that are really good at giving, concise sort of writing advice type of videos. I mean, your videos, you're really good at that kind of stuff. And I feel like I'm not, because so much of my writing is instinctual, and, I never really had too much of that formal, training, education. So yeah, that's kind of mainly why I kind of started my channel, and my, I guess, philosophy around how I make videos is I want it to be more hey, this is just what I'm going through, and if people can find something to relate to that, or find something motivating about it while they're watching my videos, then great. But I always try to present it as this is just my experience, and hopefully people resonate with it, or at least find it interesting.
Totally. I mean, I definitely find it super interesting, and I don't think that that's an uncommon feeling among people who watch AuthorTube. I feel like a lot of people on AuthorTube or viewers of AuthorTube are looking for the sort of real, raw experience of what it is to be a writer. And I think that might be because being a writer is such an isolating experience a lot of the times. It's solitary, right? You're doing it yourself. And I know, I mean, the only other writer I knew growing up, I started writing when I was 12. The only other writer that I knew was my sister. We were just discussing this before. And I mean, I was so happy that I had my sister. And I know a lot of people don't have that. So I think like the internet and authortube as a whole, which is like, I think generally one of the newer writing niches. It might be a bit, I guess, older now. To me, it feels newer because I've been watching authortube since before it was a thing. So I'm like, it's still a baby, but it's actually like not really. It's like a teenager now.
It's just grown.
But I totally get why people gravitate towards content that is more personal. And that's why I love your videos so much, because I think, to me, like as a viewer of your channel, your videos focus so much on that personal process, and I just love seeing that sort of day to day, and you know, the ups and the downs I think are really important, because sometimes when you're in a bit of like a situation where maybe you're struggling a little bit as a writer, you're like, nobody else is going through this, like it feels like that. At least for me. I don't know if other people feel that way, but I feel like from what I've heard from other people, it definitely can be hard to deal with feeling so, I don't know, isolated. So I think that's what's so beautiful about this community, and why I particularly like your videos, and, you know, seeing the process, seeing your thoughts, and not related to that, but I love your videos too because you have the best voice. Like, audiobook narration standard.
Oh my God. Okay. That is like so shocking to me, because I've gotten that comment on my videos like multiple times now, and I was like shocked.
If I had an audiobook, I would get you to narrate it.
Oh my God.
Friends. Yeah.
It's funny. You know what? I think a lot of it has to do with my microphone. Like, this microphone, I think has a quality to it that makes my voice sound like better than it is, because when I hear my like raw audio from my camera and stuff like that, it's so grating. I mean, I know people hate the sound of their voice, but
no, I don't think it's grating at all. It's so nice. Anyway, I just had to throw that in because literally it's so soothing. And that's also another reason why I like your videos so much. I'm like, this is so relaxing. I'm so stressed. I need like this calm, like ASMR quality voice.
I am dead. I'm literally dead. I need to start making, it's time to start an ASMR channel. Yeah, if you ever want me to narrate your audiobooks, let me know.
Oh, of course.
I would be so honored. I totally agree with you though. Like, I think writing, I mean, obviously writing is very isolating, and that's something that I think a lot of writers relate to. And I've gotten comments on my videos that are very much along the vein of like, I don't have other people in my life to talk to my writing about. And I think that is, like you said, it's a lot of people, like, writing is so personal, and you hold so much of it inside that sometimes you need to have that process of letting it out. And it's funny that you mentioned that you can talk to your sister about your writing, because I have an older brother, and he's like also a writer. He's like the reason that I am a writer.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and so like I've always felt very lucky because we can always talk about our writing, and we're very much like the same in terms of like what we like to write and stuff. And I mean, like, I'm the younger one, so obviously like I think I was influenced by him more than the other way around. But even with that, like, even having someone like so close to me in my real life that I can talk to my writing about, I was still compelled to make my channel, because I really saw it as like, I just want to document this journey. And for the first like 2-3 months, maybe even longer, I never anticipated other people would watch the video. I told like one friend, I told my best friend, I was like, by the way, I'm like making writing vlogs, and she was like, oh my God, love that. And then for a while it was just like me and like my videos, and there was like 10 views and 20 subscribers.
Oh, I remember that. I remember those days.
Yeah, right? It's like, and that's how but I loved it, because I was like, I'm writing this book, and I you know, like you never feel yourself progressing as a writer day to day. So in my mind, I was like, oh, if I'm writing this book and I vlog about it, I now have a vlog where it's like, oh yeah, I was writing chapter 3 that day and I made it through my writing slump. And that's how I made it through the writing slump. And I have those memories for myself now. And then at some point it just kind of grew a little bit beyond that.
I love what you just said, because I've been working on a video now. It's probably going to take me forever to actually complete, but I've been working on this video.
Your magnum opus.
Yes. So I had just finished, for those of you who don't know, I just finished one of my books, and I wanted to make a video kind of outlining how I basically wrote the book from start to finish. And so, you know, kind of what you had said earlier about like still having someone in your personal life that you could talk to about your writing, but still wanting, you know, to branch out a little bit more. I felt the exact same way. And that's why I started my blog at first, because I was doing a lot more blogging. And then I switched into YouTube a little bit more because I was really, really young when I started on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been working on this video. And so I checked out like my blog posts about the book, but like they weren't giving me the energy I needed, because, you know, the blog posts, you can't really like document your existential crisis as much in a blog post. I mean, I still did, but it wasn't to the extent of, you know, enough detail that I needed for the video. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go back through my old writing vlogs and see if I talked about this book. And I mean, I don't know why I thought I didn't. Of course I talked about this book. And it was crazy to see like me from 2 years ago, like when I was 18, like talking about how like sad I was that something wasn't going right, or like talking through like my issues with the book, or like some wins with the book or whatever. And it was crazy kind of looking back on it now, like where I'm at, like reflecting on that. And that's also, I think, something I love about the videos, sort of like what you said, is you kind of get to see the progression, even if it's just like you from 2 months ago. It's pretty cool, I think. It's almost like a time capsule. It's a really unique experience, I think.
Yeah, I know. I actually, I don't know if you rewatch your videos, but
I do.
I that's great. Like I do too, but only up until a certain point. Like I think I rewatch videos that are like, okay, maybe they're 2 months old, but then anything older than that, I kind of don't.
Not the older ones. Not the older ones. I totally agree. 2 months or nothing.
It's really like 2 months is the cutoff, and then everything before that's like I don't even remember doing that.
Yeah.
It's like, but I only feel that now because I actually have people that aren't just me watching the videos. And so I now have like the knowledge of like, oh, like 500 or 800 other people have seen this video.
That's exactly how I feel too. I wonder if it's like, you know, a small YouTuber thing too. Like you're so aware, like there's less like, I feel maybe anonymity when you're like kind of a smaller YouTuber. Obviously bigger YouTubers are not like anonymous, but I think when you're a smaller YouTuber and you can kind of like see every single comment and you can see the interaction and like every single view or whatever. I know that's, at least with my experience, it kind of can be like, oh, people are watching this. You know, I can kind of like keep track of that. And I don't know. Yeah, I love authortube because I get to share so much of my journey. And I think from the comments that I see, like even on your videos too, I think people like appreciate the solidarity, especially like I said, because writing can be so solitary.
I haven't been on authortube that long as a creator, but as a viewer, I've been around a little bit longer. And there's something about authortube that's like, of course you want to see it grow, but also how much do you want to see it grow? Because there's something really, I was talking to my friend the other day, who's like not a writer, but she like watches my videos, and she's like, your community is so adorable because it's like so tight knit. Like I recognize the same people who comment on my videos, like that kind of thing. And it's like, I was telling her there's something really special about that. And I almost don't want my channel to grow.
No, I totally know what you mean. I know what you mean. Having the smaller community is really nice, because even in general, like even the most popular authortube channels are still like, I mean, to some niches small, right? And so I think having the tight-knit group is like a nice experience in a way, because you can get to know people, and I think there's more opportunity to like connect with people and like become like true friends with people in the community. And I think that's helpful. I think as the community sort of branches out, I wonder if that will like retain. I definitely think I've seen that sort of continue to happen even as the community has evolved from like one big author tuber to like, I don't know, like 10 or 12 or whatever, however many it is. I've definitely seen the community kind of grow tighter as it kind of expands, but also I'm interested to see what would happen if it like got even bigger. So the next question is really about your writing. I kind of wanted to shift gears, and I wanted to ask you, when did you start writing?
Okay, so I guess that depends on the definition of like starting.
Yeah.
I think, okay, in terms of like starting like as a child, I mean, like probably I was writing around the same time that I learned how to read. You know what I mean? Like elementary school, middle school, I was like already very fascinated with storytelling. I would say the moment where I started writing a lot, like very regularly, upwards of like 100K words a year type thing, is probably when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So like grade 10, 11, 12, like I was going like crazy. Like
writing in grade 10, 11, and 12 is different.
Yeah, it really does. Like it's so funny being a teenager because it's like you have school, but that's all you have. Like
Exactly.
you're not dealing with like life things yet, and you know, it's like you have no responsibilities, so you just have so much free time. And also I was like mega introvert. Like I had friends, but I was not like going out and partying and stuff like that. So yeah, that was just me and my life. And I was happy. Like I was like really happy with that. So that's probably when I started writing very compulsively. And then I think in university is when I was like starting to ask myself like, okay, what does it mean now to get published? Because in high school, I had this period of, oh, I'm just writing for myself. I'm writing to get better. I'm writing to improve. And then in university, I was like, okay, I've improved. Now what?
Right.
And so I was in a couple like creative writing workshops. And that's when I like really started to think about like sharing my writing. And that completely changes your writing journey. Like the moment that you have other writers critique your work.
Oh, yeah.
Completely like it changed me for the better. Because then you also learn how to not just receive feedback, but give feedback. And I think that also makes you a better writer in a way.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so I think that's kind of, those are the different stages of my writing journey in which I would say I started, you know, in different ways.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's so interesting, like starting or kind of like really getting into writing like at a younger age. I don't know the confidence I had when I was a younger teenager. Yeah. I don't know if I can possess that again now. But I think
I know.
There's just something exciting, I think, about, you know, writing at that age or, you know, writing at any age really. But I mean, I think there's something particularly like voracious about me when I was younger. Even now, I'm not much older than I was when I started writing, I guess, in the long run. But I don't think I have that same energy.
Yeah, right? Oh my God, I feel you.
I'm like, I don't know how I was writing epics like when I was 13. I'm like, I'm good. I think I'm just gonna, you know, write my little short story and be happy.
Yeah, oh my God, that's so funny. Like, I agree. I think there's something about being young, because you can be a new writer and older.
Totally.
Like, you know, because people find writing at different stages in their life, but there's something about being really young and writing where you just think everything you write is like, you're like, I've peaked.
Yes.
This is going straight to an agent. This is like what's going to get me my book deal.
The exact experience. Now I'm like, you know, I think we can rein back the goals, but I appreciate the goals either way. So I wanted to, you know, next ask about kind of your current writing projects and what you're working on. So what are you currently writing? And you can share as much or as little as you'd like.
I'm always sort of like cycling in and out of different things, but like my main things that I'm working on right now is a adult fantasy book. It takes place kind of in a Philippine inspired like 20th century sort of setting. And it draws from elements of like Filipino folklore, and it's really like my passion project at the moment. Like it's the thing that I'm cradling. I'm taking my time with it. I really don't want to rush it and just like kind of put it on a conveyor belt and just like, oh, it's done. So, you know, whatever, let's move on. Like I finished writing one draft of it and I'm currently writing a second draft of it. And I think that I'm really treating this project as like a way to really like learn how to revise a long form project and what does it really mean to tighten a book and to take a first draft and elevate it, because I've never really gone through that process with a book before,
Right.
So that's kind of like my main book baby at the moment, and we'll see. Like I'm not really giving myself a timeline. Like I think there's a part of me that wants to query it once I feel it's ready, because I am so passionate about the project and I feel like I owe it to myself to at least try with this project because of how much I feel like I've grown with it. And there's a part of me that is very proud of it. And, you know, there's pieces of my identity in it in all these different ways. And so, yeah, that's kind of like my main project at the moment. And then I've also started dipping my toes into short fiction, which I've always like written short stories like throughout my life, but I feel like now I'm at a place where I really want to push myself to write short fiction more regularly, because when I'm writing a book, I usually am like completely focused on that, and then I don't let myself do anything else. And I feel like that's really hindering me sometimes. So right now I'm just trying to, you know, write short fiction a little bit more regularly, as just a way to push my prose and kind of hone my craft so that I'm kind of getting a more like broad writing experience. And I recently finished a short story. It was like a sci-fi cyberpunk short story that I am really happy with. And I've started my magazine submission journey with it. So it's kind of like it's my first short fiction baby, even though it like a second, like 2 drafts of it have been written. I want to keep kind of working on it. And yeah, those are like my 2 main things at the moment.
Oh, that's so fun. I love working on longer projects and then shorter projects at the same time. I mean, I took a bit of a break myself, like from short stories for like 6 months, because I wrote one like every month last year, and I was like,
that's crazy. Yeah,
I'm good for this year. So I wrote my first short story that in a while, like just a couple of weeks ago. But you know, it really kind of surprised me. I was like, oh, I do like doing this, and I forgot that I like doing this. So it's just so interesting hearing you talk about sort of your own experience with that, and sort of even diving into submissions and stuff, because submissions, I think for me as someone, I've been submitting, I think for like about 2 years now, and now I volunteer on I think like 4 editorial boards. And so now, like for me, it's not as, you know, now where I'm at, it's not as daunting. But I do remember like where it was to be at sort of the beginning and sort of like shopping my short stories around, and it was exciting and also a little bit nerve-wracking.
It's terrifying.
I'm like,
it's like, how do people do this?
Exactly. I'm like, am I doing this right? And you know, something that I think is fun is sort of practicing with that and getting to do that more often with short stories, because you know, with a book, it's kind of like you're working on a book most likely for longer, right? Because it is a longer form. But your projects sound like absolutely amazing. I myself have only recently like dipped back into fantasy, but fantasy as a genre now like really intrigues me, because it wasn't something that I was really into like ever. Like I never watched a lot of fantasy movies. I never read any fantasy books all that many when I was younger or whatever. Yeah. And so now is like the time where I'm really delving into it, and it's been really fun. So I just love hearing I love hearing about fantasy stories, because it's something that is really intrigues me now as someone who's like getting into it. I feel like I've opened like a portal.
That's funny. I mean, I think the landscape of fantasy and traditional publishing has changed a little bit over the years. Right. And so now we're getting a lot of fantasy stories across a lot of different cultures and time periods. And, you know, I think that's one thing that has brought me back to fantasy as well, because I had a period of time in high school and in university when like I was only writing like literary fiction or like YA contemporary. Yeah, like there was a point in university, like especially when I was in my workshops, where I was like, I'm gonna be a literary fiction writer. Like I was like, that's me, like that's who I am. And that is just not the direction that I want to take my writing career at all anymore.
Right.
But I do think that the time and the years that I spent writing literary fiction really taught me a lot about writing.
Yeah.
Like in terms of honing my craft and prose, it's like the way that you have to approach a literary fiction story is different than the way you might approach like a genre fiction idea or a speculative fiction idea, because it's like 9% of the time is going to start with something internal, and obviously genre fiction tends to be a lot more like external, conflict driven and stuff. So yeah, but I think it's like funny because I think we kind of had like a similar journey with like going back and forth between the two.
Yes, absolutely. I literally everything that you just said was my experience.
Yeah.
I started out writing a lot of genre fiction. I mean, I feel like if you're like 12 and like starting with literary fiction, like wow, like
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's wow. But I started off like a lot of, I would assume, like younger writers. I started writing a lot of YA. I started writing a lot of genre.
Yeah.
I would say that I mostly wrote dystopian, but actually, like looking back at some of my projects, like a lot of them may have teamed into like sort of fantasy or sci-fi. More than dystopian, at least some of the earlier ones. So anyway, I think, what you said about writing literary fiction sort of at one point, that was totally me. And what's crazy to me now sitting here is like, if I had told like 2020 me that I would no longer be only writing literary fiction, I would be shocked. But, I loved it so much, and I was like, okay, this is my career path now. I'm going to go like write literary books. I'm going to be totally fine. And then I started writing my fantasy book, and everything like was an upheaval of like my plans. I was like, what is going on? Because I love genre so much. And I don't know like where along the road I sort of forgot it, but and I think it's sort of exciting in a way at the same time, because I've kind of introduced to something that I love. It's kind of like finding your favorite TV show again, you get to fall in love with it all over again. And I'm totally falling back in love with genre fiction, which is like hard, because I'm like, what do I do with my career?
Yeah, it's like,
exactly. But I mean, it's fun to have both, and I'm totally content with where I'm at right now. So it's just so interesting like hearing that journey with you too, because I don't think I've heard somebody have that like exact experience before, like
going back and forth.
Yes, I don't think I've heard, like particularly with like the literary side. So
I feel like a lot of people jump around genres before they really find themselves, but I think for me it was I think some of it was really influenced also just by being in like a creative writing workshop where the expectation is sort of to write literary. Like my professor was pretty like loosey-goosey, and she like never put restrictions on things. But most people were like, okay, I'll write the literary piece, but those of us who bent a little bit more speculative would like slip one in there, and thankfully, like, my teacher was like really chill with that, and she liked that. But I do think that writing across genres has really helped me. I think there's like it helps you think about like different facets of the story.
Oh yeah.
And so I kind of get my literary fix. Like whenever I feel compelled to write something that's a little bit more character driven, or that doesn't have like a speculative bend to it, I usually will just like note it down and like try to explore it in a short story or something, and it kind of like scratches the itch for me.
Oh yeah, totally. I think both sides, both the genre and then both the literary, have taught me like different things, but things that are so important. Like I was a bit of a snob, honestly. Like for a couple of years, I was so annoying. I think like to call myself out, I was irritating about this whole debate. And I don't think there's a debate. Like, looking back on it now, I'm like,
There's no debate.
I learned so much from both. I
Yeah.
mean, like, I just finished sort of world building my my genre fiction book, and I have learned so much just doing that. And I did it for camp. It only took me a month. And in just those like 30 days or whatever of July 31, I can't even remember how many days are in July. It all went by so fast.
Yeah.
In just that small time frame, like I learned more than I did, I think, in the last, 2 years of writing. Because there's just so much that you can learn from doing different things. And, from the literary side, I agree. Like I honed my craft a little bit more while I was exploring that, that genre. And now I can kind of marry both of them, and I understand that both can coexist, and I think that's so beautiful. I'm like, yes,
both can coexist, you guys.
Yes, they can.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about sort of your goals with your writing. What's a goal that you may have for your writing? I know you sort of mentioned publication.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, like, I obviously want to query a book in the near future. I want to see if the trad pub path is for me, if there's like space for my stories in the industry. I feel like every other day I hear something about trad pub that just like makes me like want to die, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I'll just never be a writer, thanks. But I think it's still a goal of mine. Like, I want to get an agent, all this kind of stuff. I think though that on top of that, I'm really trying to have goals that aren't so rooted in external validation and in publishing exclusively, because I think a lot of times as writers, we think about like, I want to get published by this magazine, and I want to get an agent by this age, and all this kind of stuff. But I like to have goals that are just a little bit more personal and like less tangible, So I think a goal that I have for my writing that isn't rooted in publishing is like more generally like hone my craft type stuff. Like, I think that means different things for different people. For me, it means continuing to find my writing style, learning how to nail down different character voices across different genres.
Oh yeah.
I want to learn how to tighten my prose because, I write speculative fiction and I write a lot of these secondary worlds, and I want to learn how to create these atmospheres and these descriptions that feel really immersive and lived in. And I don't want to say that you have to try harder when you're writing in a secondary world, but you do have to think about things differently,
Oh yeah. I have noticed the difference. I was like, from the transition, like from like literary where it was like minimal world building.
Yes, it's
to
oh
like
my God.
Actual world building. I'm like, oh my goodness, the difference.
Yeah. That's the thing about genre fiction is like with literary, you don't have to world build because it's like we're in our world.
Exactly.
But then with genre fiction, it's like you have to world build along with, making those really immersive descriptions and stuff, and like balancing those two things is really tough. Yeah. But yeah, so that's just like another goal that I have for myself is I guess I want to write genre fiction that bends a little bit more literary, and whatever that means is going to be different for different people, but that's just like something I felt in my gut for the last 2 years is like, how do I take the things that I've learned from writing literary fiction, and how does that shape my writing style now as like a genre fiction writer? Because I do not ever foresee myself writing a contemporary or literary fiction book, but I do think that there's so much that I learned from that time, and I do think that it's had a huge impact on my writing style now and how I want to grow as a writer. So I guess like the kind of speculative stories that are really driven by characters and their internal conflicts, and those are the kinds of stories that I want to write. I want to, learn how to interweave themes more smoothly into my stories, like concretely rooting all of my stories in a wider message or a wider statement. Like those are the things that I value in my favorite stories. So it's like under the umbrella of I want to hone my craft. Like that's kind of what I want to work towards more internally as a writer.
Totally. I'm hearing you like talk about your goals, and I'm like taking notes. I'm like, I want to do this. I just love
Like,
the
oh, that sounds good.
approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the approach so much. Something you said sort of earlier was, you know, you kind of want to like hone your skills to like world build to make a world that feels more lived in. I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I like
because I suck at it right now. So
yeah,
I was
I was about to say, like, I'm so bad at that right now, and
Uh-huh.
I think it's one of the things that like overwhelms me so much about world building. But to hear like that goal, like it makes things so much more tangible. Like it makes so much more sense. Like
Yeah.
putting it like that, because you know when I think back to really fantastic genre books that I've read, like that's totally what they do. It's they create a lived in world. It's like believable, right? Wow, that is. I love your goals so much. I will be stealing some of them because
Take them.
yeah, fantastic. So my final question is going to be a question that I love to ask all writers, because some writers don't like answering it, but I think it's still pretty fun.
Oh, really?
Yes. So my
Interesting.
final question is, what's something you wrote recently that you love? And I ask because
yeah.
I always try to encourage writers to like learn to love their work. I mean, I
Love
know
that.
it's so hard. I think I've a video scheduled on that like for a while from now. I don't know when, but it will be coming out about sort of like getting better at that, because I remember like starting out, it was so hard to like enjoy my work or even know if I could enjoy my work. Like, was I allowed to? So that's why I'm asking. But yeah, anything that you've written recently that you particularly love?
Yes. I mean, before I like go into that, I just want to say like I think I've watched more than one of your videos, and I don't remember which one they were, but like I've have distinct memories of like clicking into one of your videos and coming out just like feeling better about myself.
Oh my God.
So you're doing God's work. Like you're actually doing God's work right now. Yeah, like I swear you like had a video where you just kind of talked about like, yeah, similar to what you were saying, where it was like writers need to learn how to love their work, and you know, you have the right to love your work.
Yes.
And I think that's something that it's crazy that was such a profound thing for me to hear at my big old age, having written for over 10 years and having someone tell me, hey, like you should like your work. And it's like, wow, should I? Like, oh my God, what? I didn't know I was allowed to.
It makes so much sense, because I feel like writers, I mean, I'm not sure if it's like you're explicitly told or if it's like more of like an implicit thing. I don't know. It could be both. Like, it's kind of like, I feel like there's a vibe just in general with writers. Like, it's weird to like your work or boast about your work, or in general in society, don't boast about your accomplishments. So it's like
definitely a humility thing.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think with writing, because it is, again, such a solitary task, your biggest cheerleader for a lot of the time is you, right? And that's why it's something that I focus so much on my channel is really like trying to tell writers like it's totally okay to feel like you can be confident. It's okay to work on your confidence as well as your writing. I think both like working on your confidence is just as important as honing your craft, because I'm not sure both, you know, can coexist without the other, right? And so anyway, sorry to ramble.
No. I just wanted to say that, because in case anyone needs to hear it, like I think the reason that we as writers talk down on ourselves so much is that we're told that there's so much failure in the publishing industry or whatever, that you almost, as like, I mean, I'm just talking about myself now, but like as a self-defense mechanism, you put these like walls up where you're just like, okay, but don't get too gassed, because just because you like it doesn't mean that it's actually good. Like sit down. And I don't think that's healthy necessarily. There are ways to be humble and also ways to be confident. So anyways, your videos really helped me with that. So something I wrote recently that I loved, I think if you've been like watching any of my recent videos, I have talked about it a lot. It's the short story that I recently finished writing, I think back in June, or no, July. I can't remember now, but it's the sci-fi cyberpunk one. And I just feel I get kind of like emotional talking about it, because the story meant so much to me, And when I wrote the first draft, I didn't think it was good until I sent it to like 2 of my friends to read, to beta read it. And they were like, this is the best stuff you've written yet. And I was like, what? And they're not the type of friends who would say that just to say it, because they've read so much of my writing over the last 2 years. Like one of my friends was like, yeah, like this is my favorite thing that you've ever sent me to read. And I was like, whoa, hang on, don't get gassed. I was literally like, hang on. And then when I sent it to my brother to read, and my brother is like, his opinion is like the opinion that matters the most to me.
Totally.
And when he read it, he was like, this is really good. And he helped me revise it. And that was a huge confidence milestone for me, to be able to like have people validate the story, and to say like, to not only say like, oh, this was a good story, but to say like, this in the context of all of the work that I've read from your past 2 years is the best thing you've written. I was just so happy with it that like it really pushed me to submit it to a magazine, even though I've never thought that I would ever submit to magazines, because I never felt like, oh, my story is never going to make it out of a slush pile of a magazine. So like, why even? But just the process of being like, I have a finished product that's good, that's revised, that people like, and why not submit it? You know, because like, why not put it out there? Even if it goes nowhere, I know that I've written something and gotten it to a draft that I'm really happy with. And that's solid. And that's probably like, writing that story was the first moment where in the last like 10 years of my writing journey where I was like, I have improved. Like this story is the culmination of me working on my craft for however many years. And this is like the story that I wanted to write for the last few years and never knew how. And now I did it.
That is so beautiful. I'm like, wow, that is, oh my gosh. I'm so happy that you had that experience. And I'm so happy that you were able to create this thing that you love so much. And oh my gosh, I am also really happy that you had the experience of, you know, hearing other people say that, you know, oh, like this is the sort of like the best thing that you sent or whatever. I think that is such like an important experience to have, because it, like you said, it sort of like marks the journey a little bit. And I remember sort of my first time sort of hearing from somebody that was like, that I, you know, that wasn't my sister basically. Like that wasn't my sister who hadn't read like, you know, everything that I was writing, from like the cringe, like dystopian that was so bad. It was one of my TAs. I was in my first year at my program, and my TA in my writing class, one of them, I went to office hours and was talking about this CNF piece that I'd written. And I'm not like a creative nonfiction writer. Yeah. I am not like good at that. I'm bad at it. Yeah. But I had written this piece that was in the form of a prescription label. And it was like, I didn't really know what I was doing. It was just kind of a new thing for me to try. And like, she like very seriously looked at me and she was like, you know, I like can't wait to see where you're going to go. Like, please don't stop writing, like continue where you're at.
Oh my gosh.
And I totally relate to, like, I can just imagine what you're feeling when you're hearing all that feedback for your work. Like in that moment for me, like sitting there, like I remember it like so vividly. Like it was so exciting. I kind of like got jittery, like with glee. It was like, you know, I've been doing this for so long and like I'm not sure where I'm at in terms of my writing. And, you know, to hear that somebody likes it, like that, you know, that I respect, that I look up to, like that means a lot. And so, oh, it's just so exciting. I'm so happy that you had that experience. It's so beautiful. And this is why I ask this question, even though some people don't like answering it. I've been asking it to like everybody that's a writer.
It's a great question. Yeah, I think it forces people to think about their stories and to think about, like, you know, why did you even set out to write this story? Like, there has to be something that you love about it, you know?
Absolutely. And that kind of, I guess, will segue to the end here. I would love to know, for everyone watching, like, what's something that you've written recently that you love? Let us know in the comments. But for now, I think this is going to be the end of the interview. Thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
for
on.
having me.
Oh my gosh, this was such a great conversation. I can't wait to share it. And again, if you have not checked out Chris's channel yet, everything will be, I will like paste the link like 4 times because you've got to check it out. Fantastic content over there that is literally like mind blowing. It's amazing.
No, it's
yes.
not. It's just me crying into my camera, you guys.
Well, that's what is amazing about it. So yeah, everyone check Chris's channel out. But for now, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in another one. Bye.